Why women ignore you when they're deeply in love. Sometimes, when a woman truly loves you, she doesn't chase you, she withdraws. She becomes silent, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares too much. Here's what most men never understand. Emotional overwhelm is one of the most misunderstood reasons why a woman may ignore a man she deeply loves. Most men immediately interpret silence or withdrawal as a lack of interest. They assume she must be losing feelings, getting bored, or even seeing someone else. But love, real soul, deep love, doesn't always express itself in constant communication or endless affection. Sometimes it hides. It hides because it's too powerful, too consuming, and too unfamiliar for her to process comfortably. When a woman truly falls in love, especially if she's been hurt before, the emotional intensity can feel like stepping into a storm without shelter. And when that happens, she pulls back, not because she doesn't want the man, but because she's unsure if she can emotionally survive the depth of what she's feeling. Love strips away a woman's emotional armor. It exposes her hopes, her fears, her deepest insecurities. And not every woman is ready for that kind of vulnerability. For some, especially those who have built their identity around independence, strength, or emotional control, falling deeply in love can feel like losing themselves. She begins to ask questions in her own mind. Am I too attached? Does he feel the same? Will he get tired of me? Am I making a fool of myself? These questions create a storm of internal anxiety that leads her to seek silence. She may stop texting, she may avoid calls, she may even act cold or indifferent. But this behavior doesn't stem from a lack of emotion. It stems from too much of it. In the depths of love, women can experience what psychologists call emotional flooding. This is when the nervous system becomes overwhelmed by feelings, and the person literally cannot function in a normal way. Her body and mind shut down, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares too much. It's like standing in front of a beautiful fire that suddenly becomes too hot to handle. She wants to get closer, but she also fears getting burned, so she steps back, not away from the man himself, but away from the feelings that are erupting inside her. She needs space, not distance. She needs a moment to breathe, to think, to recalibrate her emotional compass. A woman in this state isn't looking for a man to chase her or demand answers. She's not playing games. She's not manipulating. She's trying to emotionally survive what her heart is experiencing. If she's dealt with trauma, abandonment, or betrayal in her past, those old wounds often awaken when she feels real love again. Her brain can't distinguish between the excitement of genuine love and the fear of getting hurt once more, and so her instincts scream, "Protect yourself." The way she does that is through withdrawal, and if a man doesn't understand this, he'll take it personally. He'll feel rejected. He might lash out or beg or walk away, but the Stoic man, the man of emotional intelligence and restraint, sees the deeper reality. He recognizes her silence not as rejection, but as a moment of emotional overload. He doesn't press, he doesn't chase, he stays calm, he remains grounded, he gives her space while staying emotionally present. This is the paradox that most men fail to grasp. When she withdraws out of love, what she truly needs is not distance, but patience. She needs to know that the man she loves can handle the storm she's battling inside, that he won't punish her for needing time to process, that he won't make it about his ego, that he won't add pressure to her already full emotional plate. In doing so, he creates safety, and that safety is what allows a woman to return, not just physically, but emotionally open, trusting, and ready to love with her full heart. A woman who is deeply in love may sometimes choose to test your stability and presence through silence or withdrawal. This behavior is often misunderstood as a game or manipulation, but it is rooted in something much deeper and more genuine. When a woman truly loves a man, she is investing not just her emotions, but her very sense of security in the relationship. Love makes her vulnerable in a way that most men do not immediately recognize. She is handing over a part of herself, her trust, her heart, and this is a tremendous risk. So, naturally, she wants to be sure that the man she loves is someone who can handle that responsibility. By stepping back or going quiet, she creates a kind of emotional testing ground to observe how you react. This is not about setting traps or trying to control you. Instead, it's about seeing if you are the kind of man who can remain composed under pressure, who can stay grounded even when the emotional stakes are high. She watches to see if you panic, if you get desperate, or if you lose your cool. If you respond by begging, demanding explanations, or becoming emotionally unstable, it confirms her fears that you may not be the steady rock she needs. But if you respond with calm confidence, if you show emotional maturity by giving her space and not reacting impulsively, she feels reassured. Your behavior becomes a silent communication to her that you are someone she can rely on, someone who can hold his ground when things get intense. Women instinctively look for emotional stability in a partner, especially when their feelings are strong. They want to know that the man they love is not going to crumble or flee at the first sign of difficulty. Their silence is often a subtle challenge, an invitation to demonstrate strength without aggression, patience without frustration, and understanding without judgment. It's a way for her to gauge your true character beyond words, because actions and reactions reveal much more about a person than promises or declarations ever can. If she sees you remain steady, unshaken, and respectful, she begins to feel safe opening her heart fully. This test is also about timing. She's assessing if you can handle the emotional pace she is moving at, which may sometimes be faster or slower than yours. Her silence can be a way to slow things down, to see if you can keep up without pushing or rushing. She wants to be sure you're not just reacting to surface-level emotions or fleeting excitement, but are capable of steady, long-term commitment. By withdrawing temporarily, she is creating a space where her heart can feel the safety it needs to keep loving without fear. This dynamic, though it may seem frustrating or confusing to many men, is actually a form of deep communication, one that requires emotional intelligence and patience to understand. When a man recognizes this, he learns to respond differently. Instead of demanding attention or answers, he stays calm and steady. He does not try to fill the silence with noise or pressure. He respects her space and trusts that her love, though quiet for now, is still there. This approach demonstrates that he is the kind of man who can weather emotional storms without losing his center. And that kind of presence is exactly what a woman who is deeply in love needs to see before she can fully commit without hesitation. When a woman fears losing her independence, even as she falls deeply in love, her silence can be a reflection of that inner conflict. Love is a powerful force, but so is the desire to remain true to oneself. For many women, especially those who have spent time building their identity around strength, autonomy, and self-reliance, the idea of surrendering to love can feel like losing control. They want to love, but they also want to keep their freedom. This tension between attachment and independence can create a complicated emotional landscape that leads to moments of withdrawal or silence. This behavior is not about pushing the man away or withholding love. Rather, it is about preserving the parts of themselves that they have fought hard to protect. When a woman who values her independence falls in love, she may feel pulled in two directions. On one hand, her heart urges her to connect deeply and openly. On the other hand, her mind reminds her of the importance of staying grounded and self-sufficient. This internal push and pull can cause her to pull back temporarily, creating space to reassess and maintain balance between these two powerful needs. She may worry that by giving too much of herself, she will lose the very essence of who she is. She fears becoming dependent on the relationship or losing the freedom to pursue her own passions, goals, and dreams. So her silence is often a protective measure, a way to slow down the emotional momentum so she can hold onto her sense of self while still navigating the feelings she has for you. It's a complex dance between desire and caution, between vulnerability and strength. In this phase, she's not testing you or pushing you away intentionally. Instead, she's trying to reconcile two vital parts of her identity: the independent woman who values freedom and the loving woman who craves deep connection. This can make her appear distant or uninterested, but in reality, she's working through a profound inner struggle. She needs to feel safe enough to love without fear that she will lose herself in the process. Her silence is a way of protecting that safety until she can find a way to integrate both aspects of who she is. A man who understands this dynamic knows that pushing her for constant attention or reassurance will only increase her fear of losing independence. Instead, he offers space without creating distance, support without pressure, and love without control. He demonstrates through his actions that he respects her need for autonomy and sees it as a strength rather than a threat. By honoring this balance, he helps her feel secure enough to gradually lower her guard and open up fully, without fearing that love will cost her her freedom. Sometimes, when a woman is deeply in love, her silence or withdrawal is a form of waiting for you to lead. This is not about playing games or demanding control, but rather about her longing for clear, confident direction in the relationship. Many women, especially those who genuinely love, seek a man who can step up and show emotional and relational leadership. They want to see a man who is sure of himself, who can take charge with kindness and certainty, and who can make decisions with clarity. When she goes quiet, it might be because she is looking for you to fill that role, not with arrogance or dominance, but with steady guidance. In the modern world, many men hesitate to lead because they fear appearing controlling or overbearing. But leadership in love isn't about forcing or controlling. It's about showing strength through vulnerability, decisiveness, and emotional intelligence. Women want to feel protected and cared for, not just physically, but emotionally. When she loves deeply but senses uncertainty or hesitation from you, she might retreat into silence. She is silently signaling, "I'm ready to follow you, but show me that you are worthy of that trust." This waiting period tests your confidence, your ability to make choices, and your willingness to take responsibility for the relationship's emotional atmosphere. For her, love isn't just about feelings, it's about safety and certainty. She wants to know you can hold the space for both of you when emotions run high. She wants you to lead the way through conflicts, to show calm in chaos, and to provide direction when things feel unclear. Her silence can feel confusing or frustrating to many men because it is a form of communication that requires patience and understanding to decode. Instead of withdrawing out of disinterest, she is often creating a pause for you to step into your role as a leader. If you ignore this cue or fail to take initiative, she may continue to withdraw further, feeling unsure if you're the man she can rely on long term. This dynamic can be difficult because it requires men to cultivate inner strength and clarity before acting. It demands that you be in touch with your values and confident in your emotional boundaries. When you finally do lead with authenticity, when you communicate your intentions clearly, take decisive action, and hold her with respect, her silence often breaks. She feels safe to express herself fully, to open up without fear, and to deepen her love. This is the power of masculine leadership, not control or force, but the quiet strength that invites trust and connection. When a woman is deeply in love but silent, part of her fear often lies in doubting whether her feelings are truly reciprocated. Love without certainty can be one of the most vulnerable and terrifying experiences. She may withdraw because she's afraid that her deep affection is one-sided, or that the man she loves doesn't feel as strongly. This fear creates a protective barrier of silence as she waits for signs that she is not loving alone. The silence is not cold or indifferent. It's filled with anxious hope. She wants reassurance, but may feel uncertain how to ask for it without exposing herself to potential hurt. This dynamic stems from the core human need for emotional security. When a woman opens her heart, she wants to know that it won't be shattered. If she senses even a hint of distance, hesitation, or ambivalence from you, her mind begins to create worst-case scenarios. Does he really love me? Is he just playing along? Will he leave? These questions swirl in her thoughts, making it difficult to express her love openly. Instead, she retreats into silence, hoping that you will step forward and show your commitment clearly enough to dissolve her fears. Her silence becomes a challenge without words, a call for you to prove your love through actions, consistency, and presence. She watches closely for signs that you are emotionally invested, and that you value her the same way she values you. This might look like small things: how you respond to her messages, whether you make time for her, how you act when you're together. Each of these moments carries enormous weight for her. If she sees inconsistency or lack of effort, her silence may deepen as she protects herself from heartbreak. But if you demonstrate your love steadily, without overreacting or demanding, she gradually lowers her guard and opens up more fully. This situation requires patience and understanding. Instead of trying to force communication or demanding proof, a man who truly understands this will offer quiet reassurance through his presence and actions. He stays consistent, showing that his love is not fleeting or conditional. He communicates his feelings calmly and respectfully. He creates an environment where she feels safe to be vulnerable. In doing so, he helps transform her silence from a space of fear and doubt into a bridge of growing trust and connection. When a woman who loves deeply chooses silence as a way to test if you are a man of depth, she is engaging in a subtle but profound evaluation of your character. Surface-level interactions do not satisfy her need for emotional resonance and reliability. She looks beyond words and charm to see if you possess the kind of emotional control, patience, and inner strength that signals maturity. Her silence is a way to observe how you handle uncertainty, frustration, or distance without losing your composure or resorting to immature reactions. Men who react impulsively, who become angry, needy, or desperate when faced with silence, reveal to her that they lack the emotional resilience she desires. On the other hand, Men who respond with calmness and respect show her that they are capable of handling the complexities of deep love. This is a man who understands that relationships are not about constant validation, but about steady presence. She watches if you can maintain your values and boundaries even when she withdraws. She tests whether you can be patient without losing interest, whether you can respect her pace without trying to control it. This kind of testing is not a punishment, but a form of protection for both her and the relationship. It weeds out those who are only interested in superficial connection and makes room for something deeper to grow. When she sees that you are a man who can respond rather than react, who can embrace silence without fear, she begins to feel safe enough to open her heart fully. Her silence gradually fades because it no longer serves as a test, but becomes a space of mutual respect and understanding. This dynamic challenges many men because it asks for maturity beyond immediate gratification or ego-driven responses. It calls for patience, empathy, and the ability to be present with discomfort without needing to fix it immediately. When a man embraces this role, he not only gains the trust of the woman he loves, but also grows himself emotionally. He learns that true masculinity is not about domination or control, but about steady strength and respectful leadership. In this way, her silence is not an obstacle, but a doorway to a deeper, more resilient love. One of the most profound and often overlooked reasons a woman who is deeply in love might choose to ignore or withdraw from you is her fear of losing her independence. This fear doesn't stem from a lack of love or commitment. Rather, it arises from the tension between the powerful desire to connect deeply and the equally strong need to maintain her sense of self. For many women, independence is not just a lifestyle choice, but a core part of their identity. It represents freedom, self-respect, and a hard-won ability to stand on their own feet emotionally, financially, and socially. When she falls deeply in love, the intensity of her feelings can sometimes feel like a threat to that independence, creating an internal struggle that manifests as silence or emotional distance. This internal conflict is complicated because love naturally involves a level of surrender, an opening of the heart that requires vulnerability and interdependence. Yet, this surrender does not mean losing oneself. It means finding a delicate balance between closeness and autonomy, between being loved and being free. For a woman who has cultivated her independence, this balance is critical. If she feels that her identity or freedom might be compromised by the relationship, she instinctively pulls back to protect herself. Her silence is a way of maintaining boundaries while she assesses how to integrate her love with her sense of self. It's a pause, a breath, a way to avoid losing herself in the process of loving. The fear of losing independence is especially acute if she has experienced relationships in the past where she felt controlled, diminished, or overwhelmed. Those past wounds linger beneath the surface, influencing how she navigates new love. Even if the current relationship is healthy, her subconscious mind may be alert to any sign of control or dependency that might threaten her autonomy. So when she senses, even subtly, that the relationship demands too much of her freedom, her response is often to withdraw rather than confront directly. This withdrawal can look like ignoring texts, avoiding calls, or seeming emotionally distant, but it is really a self-protective mechanism. She is trying to hold on to her freedom while still figuring out how to be in love without losing herself. Another aspect of this dynamic is that independence, for many women, is linked to their sense of power and self-worth. Being able to stand alone, to make their own decisions, and to pursue their own goals gives them confidence and strength. Love, especially when it becomes intense, can feel like it might destabilize that power if not handled carefully. The idea of being dependent or needing someone else can trigger deep fears of vulnerability or weakness. So even as she loves deeply, she may resist fully opening up because it feels like giving away that power. Her silence is a way to hold space for herself, to ensure she can still be the strong, capable woman she knows herself to be, even while loving another. For the man who loves her, understanding this fear of losing independence is crucial. Pushing for constant closeness or demanding more from her emotionally can exacerbate her fears and push her further away. Instead, what she needs is a partner who respects her autonomy and treats it as a strength rather than a threat. She wants to know that her independence won't be challenged or diminished by love, but embraced as part of who she is. When a man can show that he values her freedom and supports her individuality, she feels safer to love without reservation. Her silence then becomes less about protection and more about processing and balancing the complex emotions that come with deep attachment. This dynamic also calls for patience and empathy. A man who truly loves her will not rush her or interpret her withdrawal as rejection. Instead, he will give her the space she needs while reassuring her of his commitment. He will understand that her independence and her love are not opposing forces, but complementary parts of a healthy relationship. By honoring her need for freedom, he creates a foundation of trust where she can be fully herself, strong, independent, and deeply in love, all at the same time. When a woman is deeply in love yet chooses to ignore or withdraw from you, it can often be because she is navigating a complex internal battle involving herself, worth, and fears of vulnerability. Love, at its core, requires us to expose the softest, most fragile parts of ourselves. For many women, this vulnerability is not something they take lightly, especially if they have experienced emotional pain, rejection, or betrayal in the past. The act of opening up emotionally is terrifying because it risks the possibility of being hurt again. Her silence is sometimes a shield, a protective wall she raises to guard her heart, while she tries to gauge whether the man she loves is truly safe to trust. This fear of vulnerability is deeply intertwined with how a woman perceives her own value in the relationship. When she loves someone deeply, she often holds her feelings and worth on a very delicate balance. If she senses any inconsistency, hesitation, or lack of emotional availability from the man, her mind may spiral into doubt. Am I enough for him? Does he really see me? Will he stay or leave? These thoughts consume her quietly, making it difficult for her to express her love openly. Instead of risking rejection or disappointment by showing her true feelings, she may choose to retreat into silence, trying to protect her self-worth from potential damage. The silence is a form of emotional self-preservation. It allows her to gather strength to reassess her feelings and to watch for patterns in the man's behavior. She is looking for signs that her love will be met with equal care and respect, that she won't be discarded or diminished. But this silent evaluation is also fraught with anxiety. The longer she feels uncertain or disconnected, the more she questions her own desirability and importance. This can create a vicious cycle where her withdrawal makes the man feel neglected or rejected, which may lead to less communication and increased distance. intensifying her fears and pushing her further into silence. Understanding this requires great emotional sensitivity from the man. He must recognize that her silence is not about punishment or disinterest, but about deep internal fear. Responding with frustration, anger, or accusations only confirms her fears that vulnerability leads to pain. Instead, what she needs is consistent, gentle reassurance actions that communicate that she is valued and safe. This can be shown through small but meaningful gestures, remembering details she shares, being patient when she's quiet, and expressing appreciation without overwhelming her. These actions build a foundation of trust over time, slowly breaking down the barriers she has erected. Furthermore, a woman's silence can also signal that she is overwhelmed by the depth of her own feelings. When love is profound, it can evoke emotions so intense that they become difficult to express verbally. The sheer magnitude of her attachment might leave her feeling lost or unsure how to communicate what she's experiencing. She might withdraw not because she wants to push the man away, but because she needs time to process the powerful emotions swirling inside her. In this state, words often fall short or feel inadequate, and silence becomes the only way she knows to cope. This internal overwhelm ties back to the fear of vulnerability, but also reveals the immense courage involved in loving deeply. It takes strength to face such intense feelings without losing oneself. When a woman retreats into silence, she is often quietly wrestling with this emotional storm, seeking equilibrium. A man who understands this will provide a steady, calming presence rather than demanding explanations or immediate intimacy. He gives her space to feel without judgment and patience to heal without pressure. This creates an environment where her vulnerability can safely surface over time, allowing love to flourish in a way that honors both her strength and sensitivity. When a woman deeply in love begins to ignore you, it can often be because she is overwhelmed by the intensity of her emotions and is unsure how to manage the fear of losing control over herself and the relationship. Love has a way of pulling us into unfamiliar territory, stirring feelings that are raw, powerful, and sometimes frightening. For many women, this overwhelming surge of affection and attachment can create a sense of vulnerability so intense that it triggers a natural response to pull away, even when their heart longs to be close. This reaction is not a sign of diminishing love, but rather a way for her to protect herself from being consumed by the emotional storm. This fear of losing control is tied to the deeper need to maintain emotional balance and stability. When love becomes all-consuming, it threatens to unsettle the carefully constructed emotional boundaries she has developed over time. These boundaries serve as safeguards that help her navigate life with a sense of security and self-possession. But when those boundaries start to blur or feel threatened by the overwhelming depth of her feelings, her instinct is to create distance. By withdrawing or going silent, she regains a sense of control, allowing herself the breathing room to process what she is experiencing without feeling lost or powerless. Another dimension of this dynamic is that love often demands a surrender that can feel like losing oneself. For a woman who is deeply independent or who has learned to rely on herself, this surrender is particularly challenging. She may fear that giving too much of herself emotionally will lead to a loss of identity or personal freedom. Her silence can be a way to hold on to herself while trying to reconcile the powerful pull of love with her need for autonomy. It's a delicate balancing act, one that requires immense inner strength and courage. In many cases, the silence is not a rejection, but a pause to recalibrate and ensure that her love does not come at the cost of losing who she is. The intensity of deep love also brings with it an unconscious fear of being hurt or abandoned. When a woman loves profoundly, the stakes feel incredibly high. She knows that the deeper her love, the greater the potential for pain. This fear can lead to a kind of emotional freeze, where she distances herself as a form of self-protection. The silence is a buffer, a way to slow down the emotional connection just enough to prevent overwhelming hurt if things don't go as hoped. This protective silence often confuses men because it appears contradictory to the love she feels, but it is simply her way of safeguarding her heart from possible devastation. In addition, this withdrawal can be a way for her to regain perspective. Love can sometimes cloud judgment, causing emotions to spiral and creating confusion. By stepping back and going silent, she gives herself the chance to think clearly, to evaluate the relationship and her feelings without being swept away by the immediacy of passion or fear. This space allows her to regain clarity, to assess whether the relationship is sustainable and whether it aligns with her deeper needs and values. It is a form of emotional self-care, an attempt to ensure that her love is grounded in reality rather than idealization. For the man on the receiving end, understanding this need for space and control is crucial. Responding with impatience or pressure often exacerbates the very fears she is trying to manage. Instead, he must show respect for her process, offering reassurance through calm, consistent presence rather than frantic attempts to fill the silence, demonstrating emotional steadiness without overwhelming her, gives her the security to slowly lower her defenses. This patience and respect become the foundation upon which deeper connection and trust are built. Ultimately, her silence in the face of deep love is a complex dance between vulnerability and self-protection, passion and caution, connection and autonomy. It reflects the intricate inner world of a woman trying to navigate the powerful forces of love without losing herself or feeling powerless. When met with understanding, patience, and respect, this silence transforms from a barrier into a space of healing and growth, allowing love to deepen in a way that honors both her heart and her strength. By embracing her silence with empathy and patience, you create a safe space where love can flourish naturally, building a connection grounded in trust, respect, and mutual understanding that grows stronger with time.